It's so good to see you all here. So many amazing scholars here at Penn in the climate space. So thank you all for coming out. As Patrick noted, this session will be recorded. We hope to get through a kind of a preliminary slide deck about the RFP and then field as many questions as you want to throw at us. I'll share my slides, but just quickly, I wanted to note folks from our team that are here in Penn Climate. We have Patrick, we have Hime, we have Heidi and Kate, and I believe we will have Steve here if he's not here already. Oh, there he is. Awesome. There's Steve. Uh, and did I miss anyone else from our team? I think that's awesome. Okay, and I'm Sonia Carley, Vice Provost of Climate, and I'll go ahead and share my screen and run through this presentation. As I go through this presentation, continue to share. Feel free to drop any questions that you have in the Q&A or in the chat function, and things that are really easy we'll just tackle and we'll write responses to, but things that take a little bit more conversation we'll save for the Q&A. So either type it in or save it until we get to the Q&A session. So the idea of what we're talking about today, and we're very excited to announce these new innovation seed grants that are coming out of Penn Climate, and the objective is just to give you an understanding of what we're looking for and what leads to greatest success for your proposals. In short, Penn Climate's goal is to integrate all of the phenomenal work that's happening all across Penn in the climate space, to elevate that work by forging partnerships and providing opportunities for further growth, and then to have high impact. And our kind of keystone, our major area that we're really investing heavily in is what we're calling the Climate Solutions Hub, which is where we're supporting work that is very focused on climate solutions and forging partnerships and collaborations across the university and beyond. And this seed grant program is one of our key parts of this area of the Climate Solutions Hub. So the idea of what these are, these innovation seed grants, this is an open call for proposals. We are looking to fund several projects at $400,000 at most. It could be less if desired. And these are research projects that are lasting between 1 to 3 years. And the idea is that these are building on and leveraging Penn's existing strengths and elevating it or building it in a new direction. We're supporting new faculty-led efforts, and we are really hoping to foster creativity and collaboration here, and to set into motion initiatives that are poised to launch. So this idea, really, this is seed funding. We hope that this provides essentially the opportunity or the glue to bring people together to then go out and build on this project with further funding and further efforts. These are the main criteria, and this is also in the RFP. These are the main criteria that we have set out as our priorities for this funding program, and we are also using these criteria to evaluate the submissions. So let me just run through these. The first is that these projects will be striking in scope and conception. These are not just kind of one-off research projects that a faculty member or two faculty members may have. This is something that is bigger in conception, that demonstrates Penn's existing strengths in areas and across multiple units. And then third and related, these projects will meaningfully involve a variety of different disciplines and foster collaborations across the university. So multiple schools represented, multiple disciplines represented within each proposal. Fourth, we want them to have measurable and timely impacts that project Penn's excellence both within and outside of the Penn community, and have the potential for long-term and sustainable growth and funding, and involve students meaningfully in some way or another. This is a short list of topics that essentially we've been doing a lot of listening tours all across the university, including with all the deans and others, center directors, and so forth. And some major ideas of topics that could lead to these innovation seed programs have come out. So these are examples that we'll share with you, but this in no way means that these are the only topics that we're interested in. This is really just to essentially provide some creativity or some food for fodder. In terms of eligibility and funding, applications must be led by Penn faculty, and that includes tenure track, but also non-tenure track faculty, including professors of practice, but it needs to be Penn faculty specific. But it can also include staff members, postdocs, students, all of them as collaborators, including external collaborators, but noting here that the financial support is reserved for the Penn personnel. And the funding, again, is noted as $400,000 for projects that can last anywhere from 1 to 3 years. And we'll ask you in your proposal to specify the number of years that you are requesting. I think 1 would be a pretty tight turnaround, but we included it just as a possibility if there's something that's already really close to launch and you just need that 1 year really to put in a major thrust, then 1 year might work. Otherwise, I think 2 to 3 years is probably more common. Here's the timeline for these proposals. So we're asking for letters of intent to be submitted by the end of June, so a few months from now. We will then spend over the summer with a committee that we'll pull together from across the university. We will review all of the letters of intent, and we will then select just a few to submit a full proposal, so that truly we don't waste people's time. We want the proposals that are submitted to really be proposals that we can help work with you to craft and design and take it all the way to the finish line. We will then ask for the full proposals by mid-November. We will turn them around in about a month's time, again, giving extensive feedback in terms of other additional areas that you can take it in, thinking about outcomes with you, and really thinking deeply about collaborators across the university and how to leverage the strengths that exist across so many different disciplines here. And then by late December, we will have final decisions and projects can begin early in the new year. The letter of intent requirements, this is very standard for grant proposals. We're seeking a narrative of no more than 3 pages. We would like relevant qualifications of the team, and that includes short form CVs. You're welcome to use BioSketch, NIH, or NSF kind of templates that already exist, and then a budget. And we have a very specific budget template that you can use for this project. To get into a little bit more detail on these narrative requirements, again, about 3 pages, no more, and we'd like a summary of the project, the main research questions, the main objectives of the project, and a description of the challenge that's being addressed or the solution that you're aiming for, how the project provides and is focused on climate solutions as it relates to the core idea of a climate solution hub, how the project plays to Penn's existing strengths, and how the project meets the criteria, the 6 criteria that I already outlined. Given that this is a grant proposal, we anticipate research action as a result, and we anticipate some research outputs as well. So we would like you to outline, connecting to your research design, which outputs you intend for the project, including standard peer-reviewed publications, books, for example, reports, digests, participation in scholarly meetings, presentations to external stakeholders, including policymakers or other decision-making bodies, and also if there's a community-engaged scholarship element, what that looks like. Also, as part of the narrative requirements are a very detailed, we would like, outline of outcomes that can come from this project. And here we're going to ask you to think deeply about how you can launch this project. So again, with the idea that this is seed funding, where can we take this seed? What are the other funding sources and other sources of long-term sustainable support for this initiative? So this might include grant proposals and specifically identifying grants or funders, industry partnerships that bring financial support, patent submissions or other efforts at commercialization, revenue generation of any other sort, and gift or donor support. So a clear articulation of these outcomes is very important. We'll ask for team composition and those that are included. Here, we note that teams don't need to be fully developed at the time of the submission of the LOI, and that we will help you, Penn Climate and others that are reviewing these proposals will help you identify potential other collaborators from across the university that might be fruitful as part of your effort. Then there's the project design and methodology. What does the research design look like? And your timeline and duration between 1 and 3 years again. Now, our team wants to be here to help in every way we possibly can. Here is information on the solicitation itself on the left-hand side. In the middle, we're noting here that we're pulling together teams, brown bag lunches, opportunities for people to engage with each other, meet each other, and learn about interests and to explore potential collaboration. So if you're interested, you could sign up for some of these brown bag lunch events. And then any questions that you have, reach out to us. Hime's email is right here. Hime is our staff lead on this effort, but you can also reach out to basically any of us on the team with your questions throughout this entire process. So just in summary, the request for proposals is now open, and we're seeking letters of intent of projects that are focused on climate solutions. And we hope to have these projects funded and ready to go, ready to launch by January of 2027. So here are a few Q&As that I'll just jump straight into. These are questions that we've heard from people when meeting with them or that people submitted in the RSVP for this session. So this might tackle some of the questions that you already have, and then I'll stop sharing and we can dig into more questions. So first, do all grant funds need to be used during fiscal year 27, or can they be spread out over 2 fiscal years? And the answer is, of course, funds can be spread out over the full project duration. You specify the duration and the funds can be used over that time. We will not have a no-cost extension. So we ask that you're very precise about the amount of time that you have with the grant proposal or with the grant amount, grant project. Second question, how will Penn Climate evaluate impact? And here we're looking for projects that set their own measurable success metrics and then track them carefully and report them to us. And we ask that you really think deeply about what impact looks like across different disciplines, noting that multiple disciplines will be a part of each proposal. Another question, can external partners be listed as collaborators? More or less, I already alluded to this. External collaborators are totally welcome to be involved, but financial support will be reserved for Penn personnel. Can faculty be on more than one grant? We say yes, of course, but we're asking that folks only lead one proposal as a PI. So you can be PI on one, but you can be a co-PI or collaborator on multiple others. What is the reporting expectation? We are asking that project teams will meet with Penn Climate twice per year and give updates on progress, metrics, anticipation of meeting your outcomes and your outputs. Can non-tenure track faculty and appointments serve as PIs? And we say again, yes, professors of practice, research scientists, and other faculty appointments can serve as a PI or co-PI. And is there a set number of schools that need to be involved? Noting that one of our criteria are that we're looking for projects that involve multiple disciplines and multiple schools. And we say here, no, there's no specific number that we're looking for, but we ask that groups aim for meaningful interdisciplinary relationships rather than token participation of just, one person's project with an assortment of other people from across the university that might, be interested in a similar theme or review the documentation of what's produced. We want this to actually be meaningful interdisciplinary relationships. Okay, I'll go ahead and stop sharing and then open the floor to questions.
We have a question in the chat, Sonia, and I don't know, Lorena, if you'd like to unmute yourself and ask a question. I think it's interesting.
Sure. I'm just wondering about the measurable impact. We have an idea that is primarily an education initiative where the direct impact would be more climate education and less, we're recovering critical minerals or something that's like a direct climate impact. Does that count?
Yes.
Or
Yep.
okay.
Very much counts. Educational impacts are very much welcomed.
I think just to add to that too, that just a reminder that we're looking for research focused projects. So as long as the focus is research, impacts, if you can defend it really well as a climate impact, then we're on board.
Another question is coming up if it's can a senior fellow with the center lead this or not?
Can a senior fellows, that's a great question. If the senior fellow is a full-time employee, then yes. If the senior fellow is a visiting fellow, which is slightly more common, I think, but I could be wrong there, then we would ask for them to not lead it.
And then there is another question coming up. Sorry to not be able to answer this myself, but can you clarify if funds can be used on implementing activities which would be the subject of the research through an NGO?
Maybe, Christina, could I ask you for a little bit more detail as to what you're thinking here? Does that mean that the funds flow to the NGO and then the NGO implements the project?
Yeah, partially. So like, part of the funds would be for staff time and students, et cetera, at Penn. But for example, we have a close partnership with Rainforest Alliance where we've been exploring some sort of like carbon market projects with them. And so, if some of the funds could be used to actually implement the project, that would then be, sort of rigorously evaluated as part of the research.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. I mean, assuming that it is fully on the implementation side as opposed to personnel side through the other
Yes.
organization, then yes, as long as that's part of your plan, then that seems great.
Great, thanks.
Mm-hmm. The seed funds can support equipment purchases. Second part of this question, so does Penn need to own the equipment or can a local municipal partner be the recipient? It's a great question. I'm looking, Nick, thank you. I'm looking at the team. Does anybody?
It's pretty hypothetical, but just thought I would test what it allows for.
Yeah.
I think that could be a question that we would need to talk to our budget folks about potentially. I could see them having opinions on that.
Let me make note and return to you, Nick, specifically, if that's okay. Okay, cool. There is no overhead cost actually. So 400,000 is, this is like the equivalent of going and getting an external award of 650 or so because we don't actually build in the overhead. So it's just all direct costs that go straight to the project.
We should probably advertise that more.
Yeah. The value is more than 400 is essentially the point. Other questions? Can some of the seed funds be used for a capital construction project, i.e. building green infrastructure in a schoolyard, for example? Yes, as long as it's, again, very similar to the kind of the equipment question, as long as it's, or the implementation question. Then.
Question on community focused projects. We're always interested in community focused projects. So, that's a layup. Julie, can you drill down a little bit on this question as far as what do you mean by education focused proposal?
Yeah, I'm getting back to your comment, your response to a question. It was Lorena's question, actually. And Lorena was asking about sort of outcomes and educational outcomes, and your reply was as long as they're research focused. So I just want to make sure I'm understanding sort of like, I know the focus here is research, but where does an education focused proposal fall into that, I guess?
Well, I'll take a crack at that since it was my answer that triggered this question. But what I'm saying is that the project is research. The project itself is research focused. That there's a component that that the project is not a curriculum development project. It's not like we're going to submit $400,000 on to reform the curriculum in whatever school, right? That if an output is climate education, that's great. But like if the focus of it is again curriculum development or something, or like creating a new course, like we have other funds and other projects for that.
Got it. Okay.
That's what I was driving at. I don't know, Sonia, if you have anything to add.
That's great.
And Lorena, is there anything else you were curious about? I'm not sure. Oh, there you are. You're still here.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. We can scheme.
Excellent.
I'll also note we have Katie on the call on our team as well. Hi, Katie. Yeah.
Hi there. Yeah, I'm helping coordinate the faculty brown bag. So if you want to sign up, encourage you to do so, and you'll have a nice meet and greet with some potential collaborators. And for those of you who already signed up, I wanted to wait till after this call to coordinate. So you'll be hearing from me soon with your sort of matchmaking.
Lorena.
Yeah, I do have one more question. I know I totally understand the like this is a seed grant. We want it to lead to something that is long-term sustainable and that won't just, die when the funding dries up. Um, and the you mentioned this in the presentation. The obvious one is there are these grant funding mechanisms, and this will get us started, and then we'll apply to this, and this grant, and here's why we think that would succeed. Um, can you talk a little bit more about the other ones that would also be possible? Like, okay, we think this would be promising for philanthropic gifts. Like, anyone can say that, but do you have advice on the best way to demonstrate that these other long-term funding mechanisms might be viable?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would say on the philanthropic gift, that is the most speculative because it's hard to know that that is in fact the potential. But some of the other ones I think are quite obtainable depending on one's discipline, right? So industry partnerships is one example. If there's a way that you can have an industry partner and they can support either cost share or long-term support the initiative, that's one example. Seeking patents or other kinds of commercialization of the products that are produced as a part of this grant is another. Foundation support, I think we often forget that foundations are very active within this space and are great resources for further funding. So that might be another one if you've already established some kind of working relationship, or we could help you establish a working program director at a foundation and thinking through this proposal and how it connects to their mission. That would be a great opportunity to essentially identify that foundation as a potential funder. So yeah, hopefully that answers your question, Lorena. Awesome. Hime.
I just wanted to mention that, well, our newsletter and in our website, there are funding opportunities listed from external resources. And so that could be another potential source of information or inspiration for your projects. And that was one thing. And then, Sonia, there is a question in the chat about, this is from Shorab Nath. Is this a single PI call with collaborators, or can there be co-PIs?
Yeah, we can have co-PIs.
I think we're just thinking about it from. Oh, I'm sorry. Who did I interrupt? Was it you?
Go for it, Steve.
I was just going to say, I think just from an administrative standpoint, we would end up having one PI manage the funds. So we transfer funds over to one PI for distribution to everybody else. But as far as the proposals go, co-PIs are great. Welcome.
Yeah, that's a great point. I guess I was going to encourage the thinking of co-PIs because it really is a strong signal that this is an idea that is across multiple disciplines as opposed to just, like one person's core idea. So if it is possible to add people really deeply and substantively, that's what we would encourage.
I just want to highlight there's also a discussion about non-traditional partnerships in research outcomes that are harder to measure. This is coming from Catherine Staley. Catherine, I don't know if you want to share more about your idea with Sonia directly.
Well, it's an absolute sketch of an idea. So, but I was just thinking that, a lot of climate work seems to be a vacuum in terms of arts-based representation. So film, literature. So what if a project incorporated as one of like the partners, or one or more, but particularly one, something that was much more an arts-based unit that doesn't have as measurable research outcomes, right? I mean, it's harder to say what you would look at. You're not going to do a survey in particular, something like that. So I was just curious, like, if we wanted to partner with more non-traditional partners within Penn, and maybe one outside of Penn, like say Mural Arts or the Clay Studio. What would but we couldn't kind of define as clearly the obvious research outcomes.
I guess I would say in general, collaborating with the arts is very encouraged, and it's very consistent with the priorities of the university at present. And I know that Tim Rahman, Vice Provost of Arts, would be thrilled at ideas that are kind of deeply connecting the arts and climate. And so I would encourage you to approach him too, to shape some of these ideas if you think about collaborations there. In terms of the point about the kind of it not necessarily being as clear what the research component is, or it being a little bit fuzzier, I would say as much as you can really nail down what the contributions are, the better. And so even if it is a collaboration that might be more unique, I still think that like really pushing on, okay, so where are the research aspects and then where are the impacts? And I think impact is really valuable for these proposals of thinking about where we can have impact and how do we translate the work that we're doing to the right decision makers for solutions that they can actually enact. And so thinking about that kind of dissemination product is really important. And your point about the arts and the arts being a vehicle for dissemination, I think is really valuable too.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm. Any other questions? Yeah, Nick.
I know, Sonia, you already covered that external partners are allowed to be listed. Just clarifying that this includes academics at other universities.
Yes,
We just
definitely.
can't pay them.
Yeah, yep, we just can't pay them.
Cool. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Yes, please.
Hi. So I have a question about the fact that there won't be any no cost extinction or extension, sorry, or like it seems that the time frame is pretty restricted. And I was wondering for example, if the work involve field work such as research cruises, which is what our lab focused on, and sometimes those cruise time can be really uncertain. I was wondering whether there is any way to, for example, if the cruise time is within the 2 to 3 years, but the sample came back a little bit late, but the measurement of the sample needs funding to support. Is that something that could be addressed, or we should like look for other sources of support?
Yeah, I share your concerns there, and just in terms of research being a little unpredictable in terms of when you get the results and have the ability to analyze them. I think we would like to be as precise as possible. What we would like to avoid is that faculty haven't spent, let's say, half of their grants and then they just sit on them for a year and then they spend it on something somewhat related later on. So our intention is to avoid that kind of problem. But if there is this little bit of time, let's say a 6-month window, 4 to 6 month window, where you're waiting on results and it is very obvious and you can prove to us that the next phase is coming, then that's where we'll have exception. We'll be very clear in the full call for proposals once those that have been invited to give one will be very clear about exactly how much essentially time you would have within that space.
Right. Yeah. Thank you so much. That makes sense. Thank you.
Maybe seeing and hearing no more questions, we can draw this all to a close. And again, this is recorded and anybody can revisit this recording at any time. We'll post it on our website. But if you have further questions, please don't hesitate to reach out to any of us on the team. Hime is the contacts that you have. Oh yeah.
I'm sorry, I'll be the last question. I have a question about the content. I was wondering whether it's okay to like focus on like the contents out of like United States, like because I'm from Korea, so I was wondering whether if I have the case study or like the contents regarding the climate change, but in Korea, so I could make a collaboration with my back university if it's possible. I was wondering.
Absolutely. Yes,
Oh,
it does not need to be confined to the United States. And Penn Climate is we work local to global and have projects at all scales, and we encourage
mhm.
that too of our grantees.
And like I have like one more following
Mhm.
question. As long as I mean, I, right now I'm like visiting scholar, so I'm not actually like Penn faculty member. But like if it, I was wondering whether it's possible if I graduate in the future and then like join Penn faculty member like through this project if it's available.
Yeah, well, this project is only short-term funding, so
Uh-huh.
that would be soft funding for you in particular. I would say it'd probably be smartest to not be the PI in that case, just because
Mm-hmm.
that relationship isn't necessarily solidified, and it would just be
Mm-hmm.
soft money. So I would encourage you to partner with somebody who is full-time, and
Yeah,
then
permanent.
exactly, and then work with them to figure out maybe there's like a cost share arrangement where this
Uh-huh.
grant helps support your long-term,
Uh-huh.
position, but with the plan for
Like
others
later on.
going forward.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Any other last ones? I don't want to cut it off prematurely. Okay, we'll draw to a close. Reach out with any questions going forward. And thanks,
Thank
everyone.
you. We
Thank
can't
you.
wait.
Thanks, y'all.